Hey there, Postal here. So today we're going to be looking at the Tier 9, another Tier 9 Soviet fighter. Today it's going to be the La-160. Kind of the odd duck, not just for this tier, not just for this line, but kind of for Soviet planes in general. Let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, the La-160 is definitely the ficklest of the Tier 9 Soviet beasts fighters. It's a very, very strong platform, though, in my opinion. It's just maneuverable enough to be a viable dogfighter. But you've got two 30mm cannons, and they can pump out a lot of damage, at least a lot of critical hits at the very least, even if you're not necessarily doing a lot of damage because the guns are kind of wild, like the majority of planes that have two 30mm cannons. Alright, so I'm heading over here to the command center. I want to try to get some of these planes. Go like 15 seconds of shooting at fighters and none of my shots hit. This plane, I think I mentioned it in the end comments. This plane is one of those planes that it gets better as you fly it, just because you can't hop into it like you would with anything that has 20mm cannons, because the 20mm cannons are so just easy to work with. So the more that you fly this plane and the 30mm cannons, the more you'll just get used to the way they act, how far out you need to aim, how much lead you need to give, and how it kind of syncs up with the plane. Alright, so let's just boost on past this guy, right? We do have pretty significant ability to boost this plane. Its engine is pretty strong. It can't necessarily maintain that speed very well. But when there's something like this Jawa sitting up at way too high of an altitude and just kind of floating, I mean, I'm almost at way too high of an altitude, so he must be definitely at way too high of an altitude. An Su-9, I don't care how bad an Su-9 is, you never head on an Su-9 when you're in a fighter. You will regret it if any of his shots actually hit. Otherwise, I can ignore the Su-9 because it is a bot and not a human. Even if it was a human, it wouldn't be the scariest thing in the world. So hopefully we're going to be able to get the extra command center. If that guy didn't die, it would have been easier. One thing I don't necessarily like going against in the La-160 is bombers. And it's twofold. The 30mm cannons, although if they're consistent in their hitting, can do a lot of damage, but you'll see here like they're not hitting how I want them to hit. The other thing that's detrimental about bombers is they're just up too high for the La-160 to really be relevant against. I am hanging up way higher than I should be, so I'm never really able to gain my momentum that I would have gained if I stayed a little bit lower. But that bomber kind of disappeared and gave us the opportunity to get rid of that fighter. Let's see what we can take care of down here. Still haven't gotten this command center, but we got our command center, so it's going to be helping to flip some of those sectors. Looking on the map, it looks like we're working our way on a mining facility. Let's loop around here, see what we can get. Ooh, get away from me, sub. Yeah, this is, I think, the third game I played in a row on the La-160, so I would have liked to think that I would have mentally synced up with my guns, but apparently I had not. We did see there I was able to, maintain enough momentum and get the guns on target just enough to be able to knock out that plane. And I don't want to lose this command center. They've already gotten a military mining facility. We weren't able to get our mining facility, so my goal at this point is really just to hold on to the comm centers if I can. And that way, by holding on to the command centers, hopefully we'll have enough attack power from the bomber flights that we'll be able to start getting some of the mining facilities Hopefully they'll flip the center soon and they can stop focusing on that and go for something more important. Tier 262, whether it's tier 8 or tier 9, if it keeps in a straight line, is definitely going to be able to pull away from us. But you'll see it knocked out his engine there. And I was hoping to keep up with him. Am I going to be able to keep up with him? Oh, he's turning. Apparently something just happened with my mouse or something because I kept going a straight line. 262s that turn, you know, are asking for a whooping. They just, yeah, they shouldn't turn. So we've got the center now. So let's head on to the center, basically. I'm kind of moving towards, like, not to a mining facility, but as close as I can get to a mining facility and still be relevant, and that's the center spot here. Looks like we've got our mining facility now, and so now it's kind of like an avalanche, right? We went from kind of hanging on because they had a mining facility, and those are worth, basically, I think they're really worth like almost 3 sectors just with the way that they produce capture points. But we had the 2 command centers, and just by being diligent and holding on to those, we've gotten in the position that we're in now. So we're going to continue to defend the center here a little bit, and kind of determine, well, what's the best course of action. We've got enemies over towards the command center, so let's go ahead and go to the command center. Oh! Well, I got lucky there. Flippin' Jawas, man. They have 4 30mm cannons, right? And something like an La-160, or for that matter, the MiG-9, or the plane we'll be seeing tomorrow, the Yak-19. It really cannot take any hits from 30mm cannons. So I was lucky enough to only lose 20% of my health instead of 80% of my health, or all of it. So that's what it is. So we've got a large cluster of planes coming in. Let's go ahead and put our cannons to good use here. We've got this 262. You can see when you sync up with the guns, you can definitely do really well, and this plane can just pump out the crit hits. Everything I've hit, I've knocked out wings. Oh, don't die here. Knocked out wings, knocked out engines, set on fire. What are you doing? Air supremacy, what the heck? I was initially going for the bomber there, but it's just, they've got too much airspeed for something like an La-160. You can see I'm at 8,000 feet and 150 miles an hour. No es bueno. I think, are we good? Is that, I don't really find what I'm doing to be smart. 1092, this is its comfort zone, right? And so I'm just kind of asking for trouble. If I get in the red, I'm really going to be in trouble. Game's over anyway, so I was probably just doing that, I guess, because, you know, it was the end of the battle, and what the heck did it matter at this point? So normally, don't go up to where a 1092 is, bring the 1092 down to you. Alright, so pretty good all-around battle, you know, just doing what needed to be done. Let's head on back. Alright, I was able to end with 16 frags there. Not a lot of damage to aerial targets, but a lot of critical damages there. Yeah, 14,000 personal points. You know, you can kind of see like what the La-160 is really good at, you know, taking down aircraft that are already weakened or weakening them for other aircraft. Because of the inconsistency of the 30mm cannons on this plane, it can be kind of difficult to take a plane that's got a lot of hit points from its full hit points down to no hit points. So very often you'll see me, you know, start to engage an aircraft, and once it's tail gunners on me, or once you know, I'm just struggling to keep the guns on target for whatever reason, I'll hop off of it and go to a different plane and do some damage on that one. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely not a tier 9 fighter for everyone, and I think it kind of struggles to find a place in the game, which is kind of a mean thing to say to it, I suppose. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, little La-160. It's okay. And well, what do I mean by that? Like, I already talked that the Key 162 is basically the same plane, but with better stats. This plane doesn't have any kind of high altitude. It's actually quite low altitude. But if you're going to have a low altitude turny kind of plane, well, at tier 9 anyway, you might as well have something more like a attacker. An attacker, not a attacker. Proper grammar. Barely, it has less maneuverability, right? Granted. But you get a decent amount more airspeed and decent more altitude performance. The guns are more consistent as well, although they're on the wings. It's 420 mils on the wings. Here's the Key 162 that I was talking about. And look, I don't even have, not that I've got either of these planes specialized, but the gun armament, yeah, is less, but it's because it's less range on the same 20 mil cannons, basically. Everybody loves the 1092. It has 4 really good 20 mil cannons, centrally located, great altitude performance, poor maneuverability, at least comparatively, but you can live with that with great airspeed and altitude performance, right? TA-183, nobody really seems to like this plane, but I absolutely love it. It has 4 30 mil cannons, and so, you're not having the same, range that the La-160 has, but you've got so many cannons, like they're going to hit. But again, you've played this plane much like you would an F6U, just kind of like a rocket. You don't play it as a tourney plane. An FJ1 though, so in my opinion, if I wanted a kind of almost tourney plane, I'd go in the FJ1. Why? Because you get almost the same maneuverability that an La-160 has. Look at the flippin' altitude performance difference. You can go twice as high. You got the same airspeed, but to be honest, the FJ1 just kind of feels like it hangs on to its airspeed a little bit better. Maybe it's just because it can go higher and get away from things a little better. You're dealing with your same type of 50 caliber machine guns on the FJ1 that you've had for that whole line, but the difference is they're centralized and the engine very rarely gets knocked out. You've got that American kind of survivability that you don't necessarily have on the La-160. And I'm not sure I've even got this one specialized, do I? No, I don't have this specialized either. So, like, if I kept the 160 because I really do enjoy playing it, but it's not for everybody. I recognize that. I'm kind of a pseudo-masochist when it comes to these planes, so I don't mind the 30 mil cannons that go all over the place. It mixes it up for me. But for an everyday flyer, your best bet would be an attacker or an FJ1 if you want something a little bit more tourney. There's, of course, the Yak-19 if you just like super tourney planes. This one the Yak-19 is a super tourney plane. And you don't sacrifice all that much more altitude performance for it. So, and you've got more consistent guns on the Yak-19. We'll actually take a look at the Yak-19 on a later video. But if you're just looking for a tourney plane at tier 9, go with the Yak-19 over the La-160. You'll be happier for it. You'll get more consistency out of it, even though you'll lose a little bit of altitude performance. Anyway, do you agree with my assessment on the La-160? Have you gone down this line? Again, I like it, but most people don't. And I must say, if you've gotten into the La-160 and you're just struggling with it, or you're just not liking it, keep at it. 30 mil cannons are one of those kind of cannon setups that you need the more you play it, the more used to it you get. If you hop off the La-160 and go to something else that's not 2 30 mil cannons, it actually takes a little while to get used to the La-160 again. So just keep playing the La-160 and it'll come around. But even more so, the tier 10, the La-15, is one of the best tier 10 fighters in the game. That's a different video, right? Check out one of my La-15 videos. So even if you're struggling or just not liking the La-160, there is a big old pot of gold at the end of the rainbow at tier 10. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this gameplay. Hope you liked my assessment. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you didn't, thumb it down. Oh, and I always keep forgetting to tell people to subscribe, so maybe I should do that. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and have a good day.